So good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'm Judy Hopkinson. I'm one of the 3 co-presidents of the League of Women Voters this year, League of Women Voters of Bellingham, Whatcom County. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And before we get started, please take a quick moment to be sure your cell phones are turned off. Thank you. These voter forums are presented by the League of Women Voters of Bellingham, Whatcom County, and the City of Bellingham. Now, the city has provided the facilities, and the forum is being telecast live on BTV10. And they'll be repeated on BTV10, the city's YouTube channel, and on low-powered radio stations KMRE and KAVZ. The Bellingham Herald is our media partner. So we thank all of these partners, and we hope that you too will thank them for their generous support and the service they're doing to our community. The forums are the property of the League of Women Voters of Bellingham, Whatcom County, and the City of Bellingham, and may not be used in any manner without specific written permission from both parties. Founded in 1920, the League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization with 800 affiliates across the country. It encourages informed and active participation in government. It works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and after extensive study and consensus within our organization, it influences public policy through education and advocacy. And membership is open to men and women of all ages, so we invite all of you to join us. Tonight is the second of 3 candidate forums produced by our league for the general election this year. We will be covering candidates running for Whatcom County District 1, Position B, and District 2, Position B, as well as the race for Whatcom County Executive. Now, for information about our upcoming forums, I believe you may go to our website calendar, and that's at lwvbellinghamwhatcom.org. Okay, and now I would like to introduce our first moderator, League member Anne-Marie Peck. Okay.
Thank you, Judy, and good evening, everyone. Tonight, we're starting with the Whatcom County Council race for District 1, Position B, and I'll be introducing candidates Bruce Ayers and Todd Donovan. The County Council is part of the legislative branch of local government and consists of 7 members nominated by district-only voting in the primary and elected by county-wide vote in the general election. The County Council exercises its legislative power by adoption and enactment of ordinances and resolutions. Their powers include levying taxes, appropriating revenue, and adopting budgets for the county. They establish the compensation to be paid to all county officials and employees, and establish, abolish, combine, and divide by ordinance non-elective administrative offices and executive departments, and establish their powers and responsibilities. The Council adopts the comprehensive plan for the county by ordinance, including improvement plans for present and future development. The term of office for each elective council member shall be 4 years, commencing with the 2nd Monday in January following election. For the year 2015, the salary for a council member is $24,750. Before we begin, the rules for the forum are: Candidates will have 1.5 minutes for their opening statements and 1 minute each to rebut their opponent's comments. After the rebuttals, they will have 1 minute to respond to questions from the audience and for their closing statements. Riley Abel will be tracking the time, and Carol Como will flash a yellow sign when there are 15 seconds left and a red sign to signal stop. If the candidate continues, a bell will be rung, and that says stop talking. We ask that the candidates are respectful of the time allotted due to the limited amount of time that we have this evening. An important goal of the League is civil discussion. To that end, we also ask those in the audience to be respectful and refrain from comments, as well as to hold their applause until the conclusion of each segment of the forum. Some questions have been provided by the Bellingham Herald reporters and a League question committee. Written questions from the audience should be addressed to both candidates. Ushers are available to pick up your questions and bring them to the screeners. Ushers, you want to wave at us? And there's an usher in the balcony. Thank you. Questions will be screened by League members Joe Collins, Martha Burns, and Donna Packer. They will be screening for legibility, clarity, and duplication. To start us off this evening, the candidates rolled dice, and the high roller had the choice of going first with their opening statement or having the last closing statement. After the start, we'll rotate which candidate responds to questions first. Candidates, please remember that your opening statement should answer the question, why are you running for county council and what makes you the better candidate? The winner of the dice roll was candidate Ayers, and his choice was to do the last comment. So that means that candidate Donovan will start with you. Your 1.5 minute opening statement, please.
Thank you, and thanks everybody for coming, and thanks to the League for doing this. It's a great honor to be here, and I'm a great fan of the League's work promoting good government. I'm Todd Donovan. I'm running for Whatcom County Council. I teach state and local government Western, raising my family here. Been here for about 25 years, and the requested question, the prompt is, why am I running? And I'm running because I think right now this is a great moment of opportunity for Whatcom County. There's some things we can get done right now that we've sort of been putting off. I'm passionate about water and water quality and restoring the health of Lake Whatcom, which is a vital drinking source for a lot of people in this county. I'm passionate about preserving and protecting the water quality of Bellingham Bay, Drayton Harbor, Cherry Point, Portage Bay. Our future here depends on having healthy water. It's the thing that brought many people here. It's the reason we're here. It's one of the things that binds us to this place. I'm running because of our economy. When I moved here, the largest employer downtown was a pulp mill. Now it's software firms. We are the home to all sorts of higher ed institutions. Western, my employer, Bellingham Technical College, Whatcom Community College. We need to promote higher education, our skilled creative workforce, and move this county forward. I'm Todd Donovan. I'm running for Whatcom County Council.
Thank you. Candidate Ayers, your opening statement.
Yes, I'm Bruce Ayers, and I too want to thank the League of Women Voters and the Bellingham Herald for sponsoring this forum tonight. I want to go on record first that I'm pretty sure the ball was going out of bounds anyway last night with the Seahawks. I just want to make that clear. I've spent most of my adult life living in Whatcom County. I moved here as a student. I stayed on as student body president. I then started a business, and I've been signing both sides of the paychecks ever since. It's important that we keep Whatcom County in the forefront and keep our quality of life at the forefront of all decisions that we make at the council level. The reason I'm running, and the reason that I chose this time to run, was the way that we've been mistreating not only our community, but our citizens in our community that end up in the county jail. That jail is failing. It's been failing for 18 years. That jail continues to fail. We've spent 18 years kicking that jail issue down the line, waiting for next year, waiting for something else, another study, another reason to put it off. We've got to stop that. We've got to replace the jail. And my job in the council will be, if the 0.2% passes, will be to make sure that money is spent on the jail. And if it doesn't pass, that we get the Plan B as soon as possible. And I was sitting on the city council. I'm kind of comfortable with this chair. I used to sit here for a while. So I hope you will support my campaign and my candidacy. And I have to stop. Thank you.
Candidate Donovan, you now have 1 minute to either rebut your opponent's comments or to add to yours.
How do you rebut somebody's intro? You're not Bruce Ayers. I'll just say a couple more things about why me. It was part of the initial opening there. I think of myself as a pragmatist. I had the privilege to serve on the Whatcom County Charter Review Commission recently and really enjoyed the opportunity to work with people with different perspectives. I'll work hard to represent you. I'm cheap. You can talk to my kids about that. I'll protect your tax dollars. I'm Todd Donovan.
Thank you.
Do I get 1 minute to rebut?
You do.
Oh, good.
You do.
I would like to list the people who have supported me during this campaign and have endorsed me for this campaign. The Whatcom County Cattlemen's Association, Sheriff Bill Elfo, the Whatcom County Sheriff, the Washington State Farm Bureau, the Whatcom County Association of Realtors, the Associated General Contractors, the Whatcom County GOP, Scott Cortice, the Linden Mayor, Gary Jensen, the Ferndale Mayor, Bob Bromley, the Sumas Mayor, and Harry Robinson, the Blaine Mayor, and John Munchler, Ferndale City Council. And of course, many other people in the community have lended their support to this campaign. It's important that we have leadership in the council that serves all of Whatcom County and puts the local interests of our county first. I've watched more and more state regulations, federal regulations, state influences come into our county and dictate to us what we should be doing with our land and what we should be doing as a community. I want to keep it local. Thank you.
Thank you both. And now for the questions. Question number 1. What do you see as the single most important issue facing the council in the next 4 years? What approach do you think the council should take in responding to it? Candidate Donovan.
I mentioned water. I'll keep mentioning water. I don't think there's a single, there's several important issues, but I think water is one of the more difficult ones and one of the more important ones in terms of what we have to think about long term. We need to coordinate all the stakeholders who have claims to water. We need to communicate and get people together to figure out both water quality and water quantity issues. We need an inventory so we can get a handle on how much water we actually have and what the claims are on this water. We also have to recognize the fact that a lot of this stuff, I won't say it's out of our hands, but it depends on how climate is changing, and it depends on what courts are going to be doing. So that's a big issue. The comprehensive plan that's coming up that the council will be looking at in 2016, that was the yellow sign. That's it. Another big issue, I'll get back to that if we have another 5 seconds.
Thank you. Candidate Ayers.
Without hesitation, the most important issue we have today is replacing the county jail. We spend right now over $15 million a year on alternatives, behavioral alternatives, recidivism, teen court, drug court, mental health court. We spend over $15 million a year finding alternatives to jail, which I fully support, and we should do as much as we can. The budget for the jail is about $13 million. The idea that we don't have alternative programming is just wrong. We've reduced the percentages of incarceration since 2007. On a per thousand per capita basis, we have reduced the number of people that end up in our jail since that time with these programs and this $15 million a year we're spending. We need to do more of that. It's good not to have people end up in jail, but we also need to replace the failed facility that's inhumane for not only the people that have to be there, but the people who work there. We can do both.
Thank you. Question number 2. If elected, what would be your first priority when making decisions about the budget and taxes? Why do you think that is the most important factor? Candidate Ayers?
Public safety. It's important that we keep public safety at the foremost of our thoughts. That's what government's for. That's why we have government, is to help keep us safe. We also have to make sure that we're using our land appropriately. We have agricultural issues that we have to maintain and support. We have updating the comprehensive plan. We mentioned that. I spent 41 straight weeks in this chamber, actually in the chamber behind us, redoing the city of Bellingham's comprehensive plan. I'm familiar with the process. I know how to wordsmith a comp plan. I know what they mean. We also need to make sure our river and flood priorities are proper, that we're protecting our agriculture interests, that we're using the rivers and floods monies that everybody pays to the county in an efficient and manner that keeps our rivers and floods producing for our community. Finally, community growth issues. It's very important that we understand growth, we understand where we're going to grow, and that we mitigate that growth.
Thank you. Candidate Donovan.
And the question was about budget and tax priorities?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I think we need, with all of these things, to focus on the long-term fiscal health of the county. And I agree with Bruce that we need to build a jail. We need this jail now. But we have to look at all these things in terms of, like, what is our fiscal capacity in the long term? We also need to fund an EMS system. We also need money for parks. There's only so much we can keep raising our sales tax to pay for these things. We need to look at the long-term trade-offs when we're talking about these things. That I think is our top priority. And then we need to talk about how do we grow the economy so that we have the revenues and we have the capacity to pay for these things we want. We want parks, we want jails, we want EMS. These things involve trade-offs that we have to be aware of.
Thank you. Our next question. Where would you place funding for social services in your budget priorities? Please be specific about housing for low-income families and the homeless. Excuse me, Candidate Donovan.
In terms of the overall budget priorities, whether we like it or not, as Bruce mentioned, criminal justice, public safety, these are the dominant things in our county budget. We have to pay for those things. The more we can do for affordable housing and homelessness, the better, but I think some of the better ways we can work with that is partnering with nonprofits, pursuing federal grants. But those are priorities, but there are larger issues in our county budget that might push those a bit to the side.
Candidate Ayers?
Public safety is a social service program in our community. When you have people that don't have homes, who don't have food, who don't have places to sleep at night, you've got public safety issues. We have to use our social services opportunities to work with those people who are less fortunate than we are. We have to make sure that we're doing everything we can to prevent and help them not be a burden on society, but help be part of society. Social services is key to public safety. In addition, for affordable housing, I've been a land surveyor all my life. My dad was a land surveyor. I'm a second-generation land surveyor. Oh, I've never had a client that's walked in and said, Bruce, figure out how I can make this the most expensive thing that I can do. They're always out there trying to find alternatives to hold down costs, and the county has a big role in keeping those costs and that housing affordable through regulations and restrictions.
Thank you. The next question. If the jail tax doesn't pass, what might your plan B include? Where would you start? Candidate Ayers?
If the jail tax doesn't pass, I would hope that the new executive and I would sit down within the first week and we would start talking about alternatives. We would start talking about whether or not we can use some of this bank property tax. We would start talking about how we could perhaps put another ballot issue on the ballot for, say, a smaller portion of sales tax. We would start looking for ways to cut and find grants and other opportunities to help fund the jail, because we cannot continue with this current facility. It's a vertical jail. It's unsafe. The people in there are unsafe. we must find a Plan B. And Plan B has to be well thought out, it has to be coordinated, and we have to partner with the city of Bellingham to get that done because they control a good share of the money available for the jail. So it will be a joint effort amongst council members. I hope they would take the leadership to help. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Donovan.
That Plan B sounds like what should have been Plan A to me, or at least a lot of those components. I wish we had waited until we had all the cities on board before we went to the voters on this. And we could have maybe, you know, everybody was working in the right direction. We came up a little short on time. But as Bruce mentioned, using bank capacity for property tax is a good option potentially, because it saves us an increment on the public safety tax levy for other things that we are going to need in the future. And those things are going to be maxed out for the next 30 years with the current proposal. Whether the current proposal passes or not, we do need a new jail. And I agree, we instantly will have to go, you know, to the drawing board and do this. I think we're really close on these things. And had there been more time, or had we maybe waited till February, or had we used some mix of revenues besides just all of it being sales tax, I think we could have got there, and I'm optimistic we will.
Is there a rebuttal for that?
No.
No, okay.
Sorry. There's a next question, though. How do you think implementation of the Growth Management Act has affected Whatcom County? Please give the reason for your opinion. Candidate Donovan?
The Growth Management Act is a useful planning tool that all counties that are covered by the GMA need to take seriously. How has it affected Whatcom County? It's affected us in some ways in that we've sort of resisted it, and we've fought it, and we've ignored it. And I've been, for years, kind of watching this process with a bit of dismay. If we look at the act as some guiding principles that tells us to think about, like, where do we want the footprints of our cities to be? How are we going to plan for future infrastructure? Where do we want to plan for job growth? What is going to be rural and what is going to be urban? Those are questions that the GMA has us ask, and I would hope that we have a county council that embraces those questions and tries to move forward rather than just fighting against it.
Thank you. And your comments, Candidate Ayers?
It's interesting because in 1993, when the Growth Management Act was enacted, that's when I got involved with local politics and actually inspired me to run for the city council. The Growth Management Act is a planning document. The legislature said it was a planning document. They had 18 different ways to plan for your community. And then they had one way to restrict it and regulate it. And the first thing Whatcom County did was adopt the restrictions and regulation. It's supposed to help plan, and it does. We do plan for our future. It's not like we haven't planned. We have growth areas, we have zoning, we have 5-acre, 2-acre ag, forestry. We have planned, but we've continued and unfortunately made regulation the primary tool by which we enforce it. When I was on the city council, we had incentives. If you saved a wetland, you got an extra density bonus. We've stopped all that, and we've just started regulating and fining. We need to get back to education and incentives to make sure that all the landowners and the community is served by the ordinance.
Thank you. Moving on. What do you think is the single action that the council can take that would best serve the needs of the agricultural community in the county? And why do you select that as your first choice? Candidate Ayers?
Following right up my last question, regulation, restrictions, education, working together. We need to use the expertise at the planning staff and the permit people to help agriculture, to keep agriculture up to speed on the most current science and the most current ways to keep agriculture working in our community. We can't just go out there and send people to walk their property and hand out fines. We have to work with the Agriculture Committee. We have to zone properly. We have to make sure that as the Agriculture Committee's needs are made known to us, we have to listen. We have to understand. We have to be part of the solution and not just be the regulatory agency that hands out fines for noncompliance. We have to help people comply and not just sit back and order them to comply and then wonder why they don't. The Agriculture Committee is very important in Whatcom County. We have to keep it very important in Whatcom County.
Candidate Donovan.
I keep saying I agree. One of the most important things, I'll back up. I kind of feel weird when people start saying we need to preserve agriculture, we need to protect agriculture. I mean, we need agriculture to work, and the thing that makes agriculture work is that there's a strong market for agriculture and that their land is valuable in agriculture. So what the county needs to do is figure out how to stay out of the way of that and how to make sure that people are making money. The other thing that, there are like critical areas buffers. There's this controversy over how big critical areas buffers. We need to be listening to farmers about what works and what doesn't work and taking those things and putting them into practice. But the best thing we can do is figure out how to make that market work here in Whatcom County.
Okay, thank you. Next question. How would you describe the particular qualities you value about living in Whatcom County other than its natural beauty? Candidate Donovan.
The people, because I was going to go with the natural beauty, and you anticipated that one, I guess. No, there's a sense of community here. There's like a spirit of sort of public activism that I really value, and you see it when people are out Saturday at the farmers market. You see it when people are out just meeting their neighbors, out walking and hiking in our natural beauty. We get along, and that far beyond politics, people don't care about politics. That they want a community that they value, that's safe, and the people of Whatcom County are our best attribute.
Thank you. Candidate Ayers.
The diversity. Whatcom County is a place where just about anybody and everybody has a role to play. It's a place where you can ski in the morning and go out on your boat in the evening. It's a place where you can be part of a community, a neighborhood, or you can live on a rural setting with 5 or 10 acres and feel good about your solitude and your place in the community. It's a place where you can meet people. It's a place where you can understand people. When I was on the city council, I served on some 32 different boards and commissions throughout the community. It was a thrill. I met people that I would have never otherwise met had I not served on the council and been on these various boards. And I was on the museum board. I have to tell you, I have no interest in the museum until I served on the board. And I found that to be a very worthwhile time spent. It's this community. It has everything, and all you have to do is seek it out and participate.
That word is. Thank you. Next question. If water is an important issue, would you require all ag water users to meter their consumption? Candidate Ayers.
Water is an important issue. We're blessed in this community with abundance of water. Meters don't make more water. Regulations and restrictions do not cause for increased water resources. We have an abundance in Whatcom County. We need to develop a system where we can fairly distribute it to everybody who needs it. The ag needs it, the communities need it, the individual landowners need it. Meters is only a sophisticated way of finding a way to charge people for the free water that comes out of the sky. We don't own the water. We own the delivery systems. When I pay my bill in Bellingham, I don't pay for water. I pay for the delivery system to get it to my front door. It's a matter of distribution, fair distribution, so everyone is served with this valuable resource, something that we are blessed with in this county, and we just need to make sure that as many people as possible, without destroying the water, without degrading it, are served by it.
Thank you. Candidate Donovan.
We said people don't own the water, but there are rights to water, and I'm not saying I'm in favor of metering agricultural water, but we do need to have an inventory of how much water we have and who has claims to rights to that water. And rights are maybe analogous to ownership, and until we kind of get our head wrapped around that stuff, I don't know how we're going to make progress on water issues in this county.
But continuing on water issues, 2 years of low rainfall have increased concern about our water supply. What are your ideas for ensuring a safe and ample water supply for all our needs? Candidate Donovan.
A safe and ample water supply. Well, it depends. Are we talking about residential water, commercial water, agricultural water? For residential water, we have to work on protecting Lake Whatcom and the water quality around Lake Whatcom. And there's some tough choices we're going to have to make about this in terms of lowering the phosphate loads into Lake Whatcom. We've been making progress, but we have to do more for that. We have to be conscious of the fact that as we have less snowpack and we potentially have less stream flow, there are stream flow issues that are going to impact salmon that someday courts are going to be talking to us about this. I don't have a magic wand to wave to say this is how we're going to solve this, but I want people to be talking about these problems.
Okay. Candidate Ayers.
Well, I think it's true. We have different types of water resources. We have subterranean water, we have surface water. City of Bellingham does provide water to a large portion of our community. And Lake Whatcom is not one lake. It's Basin 1, it's Basin 2, it's Basin 3. Basin 1 is the least, has the most issues. Basin 2 will only be in 3 to 4% as Basin 1. Basin 2 is about 3 to 4%. And then Basin 3 is the balance of the lake. There is available water in the lake. We're not at a point where we're running out of water. We have to make sure that we don't let it degrade. But the issue of water is a complicated one, and it's one that we have to work with all the stakeholders. And water rights, yes, but water rights aren't exclusive. There's not an exclusive use of water, and we don't have to quantify how much water. Every single family user uses about 400 to 600 gallons a day, and we can run those numbers. Water's important.
Thank you. On the November ballot, there is a proposed amendment to the council charter to adopt term limits for county council members and the county executive, a total of 12 years in office. Do you support this proposal, and why or why not? Candidate Ayers?
Boy, I missed the beginning of that question. I'm sorry. I got all caught up with water.
Okay.
Could you repeat that,
This
please?
is about the county charter that would adopt term limits.
Term limits, okay, all right. I thought you were going to Prop 1, so that's why I think term limits are a good idea. I think we need to have turnover in government just like we have turnover in everything else. You need new blood, you need new people thinking, you need more brain power coming in and going out. I have no desire to be on a council or a board for 15, 20 years. I think term limits are a good idea. I like term limits.
Candidate Donovan?
I was on the Charter Review Commission. We had a very spirited back and forth about that. I support term limits for county council. I promised my wife I would promote term limits for county council when I was running for county council. I think I think the 12 years, so the original proposal was going to be like 8 years. I think 12 years is reasonable. I'm less sympathetic to the idea of term limits on executive offices, so we removed it from the sheriff, we removed it from originally the executive, and we removed it from the auditor, and at some point the executive got back on there. So I would be very supportive of it if the executive wasn't on there, but I think 12 years it's a pretty good length of time.
In the State of the County message, the executive said that county revenues are now stable, but he also had some concern about future revenue due to outside factors, such as reduction in retail sales or state and federal grants. If necessary, what services or programs would you recommend cutting and why? Candidate Donovan?
Cutting is one thing, reducing is another. And I think we need to, you end up cutting your biggest cost thing. So the biggest things in our budget that we'd have to cut would be, unfortunately, criminal justice, the courts, public safety. We don't want to do that. Cutting is not the only option. We can go to the voters and try to seek new revenues. We can try to figure out ways to lower the long-term costs, the operating costs of some of the things that we are doing. But I'm not going to talk about cutting programs until we see how much the Canadian dollar's demise has on our revenues here.
Thank you. Candidate Ayers?
It would be silly to try to pull out my crystal ball and say, what program would I cut if we didn't have the money? It's a process. When you budget at the level of the county council or the city of Bellingham, You have a lot of paid staff. You have people to come forward and they say, this is what we can live with. This is what we need. This is how it'll affect the services to the community if we don't get this money. It's a process. We have to go to our staff, our administrators. We have to ask them, where is the appropriate place to make reductions if we need to? And can we put this off a year? Can we postpone this? Can we add to that? It's a process. You have to it takes weeks and months to put together a proper budget. There is no magic wand that says we're just going to cut this or just cut that. It's a much bigger process. That's one reason why being on the county council is a hard job.
Thank you. Next question. During charter review, questions were raised about how the council awards contracts to nonprofit organizations for services that otherwise would be provided by county employees. Do you share that concern? Why or why not? Candidate Ayers?
Well, my understanding of what happened at Charter Review is they tried to blanket all nonprofits with one big blanket. It's just not true. Nonprofits are not all equal. I serve on a nonprofit here in Bellingham, the Bellingham Central Lions Club. They're a nonprofit. We raise about $60,000, $80,000 a year, and we give away about $60,000, $80,000 a year. I can guarantee you they don't want the county getting involved in their nonprofit. Nonprofits, you have to look at them one at a time. You have to evaluate what services they're provided. You have to make a decision about whether those services should be supported by county taxpayers. And you take them one at a time. You look at what the organization is. You find out what the services they're providing, and then you make decisions. It's a case by case, and you can't just say nonprofits and end the discussion. It just isn't accurate. You have to look at each and every applicant and decide whether or not they're deserving of public support.
Candidate Donovan?
Yeah, the proposal that came to the Charter Review Commission sort of represents how things in the legislative process can get really blown up before the people who are there deliberating about it can say anything about it. And there was an original proposal that was drafted in response to a citizen concern that would have blanketly cut funding to all nonprofits. It wasn't clear exactly what the problem was. We worked together as a body. Then we had all these groups coming and making a lot of comment about that before we could speak as a body and say, that's not actually what we wanted to happen. So the proposal was that the person who proposed it actually voted against the amendment. We had a nearly unanimous vote to vote against the amendment, saying that's not what that commission wanted to happen. But, nonprofits going before the council, perhaps they need to do requests for proposals, but yeah, case by case basis. But the commission was not cutting off money to nonprofits, and it did not.
Okay, thank you. Being careful with the time here, I'm going to move us now to closing statements. You have the opportunity to make a 1-minute closing statement, and Candidate Donovan, will start with you.
Thanks. And again, thanks everybody for being here and for people watching this on TV. I went back and listened to some of these old forums, and I've been to a lot of these forums and as a candidate. And you would think that Whatcom County was doomed by some of the stuff you hear in these things, that there's an outdated Growth Management Act, there's outsiders, land grabs, job-killing regulations, housing-killing regulations. Our politics have been really poisonous and in some ways irresponsible. I mean, think back to 1995 or 2005. But now it's 2015. Home sales here are at a 10-year high. Unemployment is at a 6-year low. The sky did not fall. Whatcom County is going to change a lot in the next 20 years. The global economy is changing. We need to be ready. I see a future where this spectacular place is protected, where businesses are going to want to locate here because we made the right decisions going forward, starting now. And this election is about moving forward. I'm Todd Donovan. I'm running for Whatcom County Council. Thank you.
Thank you. And Candidate Ayers, your closing statement.
Well, it was a fast 34 minutes. As your next county councilman, I will champion the jail. I will keep it moving forward. I will address other serious issues facing our county, such as agriculture, updating county comprehensive plan, river and flood priorities, and community growth. I have the experience. I've sat on the city council. I'm uniquely qualified to partner with the city council to fix our jail and resolve our jail. I want to point out one thing that I didn't get a chance to respond to. The sales tax currently proposed, the 2%, 0.2%, the $2 on 1,000, 29% of that money will come from people who don't live in Whatcom County, which closely approximates the number of people that end up in our jail that don't live in Whatcom County. The Plan A is the best plan to replace that jail, and we should move forward with it. My name is Bruce Ayers. I appreciate your support.
Please thank me in joining Bruce Ayers and Todd Donovan for being here tonight and for running for office.
Thank you.
You bet.
See you tomorrow.
See, if we were really mad at each other, I'd go that way.
As they are moving down and our next two candidates are moving forward, a reminder to our audience that questions are welcome. The ushers would be glad to pick them up from you. So if you have questions to ask, send them down.
Okay, thank you.
Oopsie. Good catch.
Good thing you're keeping me honest.
Yeah.
That's a fresh one.
Thank you.
And this is all the
All right, thank you.
Our next race is for Whatcom County Council District 2, Position B. The candidates running for this seat are Kathy Kershner and Satpal Sidhu. The same ground rules apply. We will be starting with your 1.5-minute opening statements. Candidates, please remember that your opening statement should answer the question, why are you running for county council and what makes you the better candidate? Since candidate Sidhu won the dice toss and chose to close last, we will start with candidate Kershner. Your 1.5-minute opening, please.
All right, thank you. Thank you, League of Women Voters and City of Bellingham, and all of you here in the audience. I'm Kathy Kershner, and I'm running to be your voice on the Whatcom County Council. I grew up in Montana, joined the Navy at the young age of 19, retired after 22 years of service, and discovered that I had a heart for serving people. I've spent 23 years working in social services, supporting people with developmental disabilities and women who are transitioning out of the welfare system and into jobs for the very first time in their lives. As I've knocked on the doors and visited with neighbors all over the county, I've really learned what you all want and need in your county government. Voters in Whatcom County want a council that will be respectful of their tax dollars. You want to replace the overcrowded county jail with a safe and more economical alternative. You want more affordable housing choices for yourselves and your families. And finally, you want the creation of family wage jobs to be a top priority and not just a campaign talking point, because you want your children to be able to grow up here and stay in Whatcom County and not have to leave to find work. Put simply, we all want the same values, and we all value the quality of life that we have here in Whatcom County. I get it. I understand, because I'm a wife who works hard to provide for my family. I'm a mom who cares about the safety and well-being of my 11-year-old son. And I've got two adult... Kathy Kershner.
Thank you. Candidate Sidhu, your opening statement.
Yes. Hello. My name is Satpal Sidhu, and I'm your council member from the 2nd District. Kathy and I have many things in common. We are both college educated, blessed with good families. Both have worked in the government, she in the Navy, I as a dean of Bellingham Tech. We both have experience on the county council, and we both live in Linden, she for a few months, and I've been there for 30 years. But it's the differences between both of us which should matter to you the most. I have signed the front and back of a business check all my life. I have helped over 1,000 people secure high-wage local refinery jobs in this community. I served on numerous community boards, and I support both food bank and domestic violence shelter. I couldn't agree more to have a voice of diversity on the council. I am the voice of a farmer. I am the voice of an educator, the voice of a job creator, the voice of integrity, and above all, the voice of reason. I have a mission to create more local jobs by promoting value-added processing for our berries and our milk. And I think we can open export markets as it's happening with TPP and other things. We should be ready for that. I'm asking for your vote to continue serving you. Thank you.
Candidate Kershner, you have 1 minute to rebut or add to.
Okay. So as I was saying, I get it. I understand because I'm a wife who works hard to pay the bills and provide for my family. I'm a mom. I care about my adult children. I want them to grow up and be successful here and find jobs and be able to afford to buy a home. I'm Kathy Kershner, and I would be honored to receive your vote and support in the election that's coming up. As far as anything that Satpal said, I would like to just point out, as I have done, that I also have worked in a business and signed the front and the back of a paycheck, and understand how important businesses are to our community and to the people that live here and depend on their jobs that are provided, because without businesses and jobs, then we've got a community that's living in poverty, and I am absolutely against that.
Thank you. And
Do I get 1 minute?
Sidhu, yes.
Okay. I think I came here 40 years ago with no money but 3 degrees, and I value the education, and I had that opportunity to work in education. I'm a person who has a long-term thinking. I don't think in tomorrows or yesterdays, I think in long terms. When I saw that our refineries, there 1,500 people are retiring, and there is no program to backfill those jobs, and these are the most valuable jobs in our community. I put people together, resources together, all 4 refineries, got the whole program started in less than 7 months, which normally takes 2 years. And we started with 24 students. Now there are 96 students. Over the last 10 years, the employment rate is 95%, and starting wage is $25 an hour. I'm a practical person. I just don't make talk. I just get things done.
Thank you. And now we move into our questions. First question, how would you describe the particular qualities that you value about living in Whatcom County other than its natural beauty? And Candidate Kershner, I'll call on you.
Well, I also, we've heard this tonight, but I also value the diversity in Whatcom County. I live in Linden, which is a small community that is full of people that care about their community, just like the people in Acme care about their community, and the people in Blaine, the people in Fairhaven. But each community is different. Each community has people that have a different way of conducting themselves and governing themselves. And when I sat on the county council, it was a joy to be able to work in each different neighborhood of our county to help the people that had projects, get those to the council and help them get them passed. I have 15 seconds, so I don't have time to give an example, but Birch Bay Berm, and there was a trail in Glacier that I was really proud to work on.
Thank you. Candidate Sidhu?
Yes. I think the best thing about this county is this is the best place to raise your family. This is kind of forgotten corner. It's a well-knit community. I know practically, I came here, and I came here only for 2 years to go back to another job. We liked it so much, we decided that we're not going to leave until our kids graduate from high school. All my 3 boys went from kindergarten to high school in same school. I think that's a value we need to place on. And the second thing is, Whatcom County is a unique place. We have Western, we have Bellingham Tech, we have Whatcom Community College, we have Northwest Indian College. Where can you find a better place than that to get education? And the other thing is active people and giving back to the community. I have worked on 12 different nonprofit boards all 30 years of my life. When I came here, I have volunteered on many different things. I don't want to list them all, but this is the best community to live.
Thank you. Next question. Whatcom County's future planning strategies are being updated now. What do you think are the 3 most important elements to plan for, and why? And Candidate Sidhu, I'll call on you.
Yes. For the first one is jobs. The second thing is housing and planning for our land and growth. Let me talk about jobs. Like I mentioned about the refinery jobs, I think there's no doom and gloom. We have so much assets in this community that we can actually create more jobs. And I have given one practical example that what do? We freeze our berries and send 1,000 miles away. They take the berries, put a little sugar back in there, put it in a glass jar, send it back to us, and we pay $10 for that. Why can't we put the sugar in the jar ourselves and send it to them? I mean, we are the highest berry producing region in whole United States. We need to increase the value of the farm by creating value added for their produce so the farming becomes sustainable. That's the one thing. I can go on for a long time, but I think my time is up.
Thank you. Candidate Kershner.
Well, I think that as we're looking to the future to plan, that we need to be paying attention to how much housing is costing our residents. Right now, the city of Bellingham has a less than 1% housing vacancy rate, which means that the cost of housing is going up, and it's becoming unattainable for our young families and those people that are working entry-level jobs or in minimum wage jobs. And I read the League's study on the economic situation for women that you did last year, and we have a real problem with our single women that are raising children in this county. And if we're not going to take it seriously about trying to figure out how to solve the housing crisis for them, we are missing the boat. We also need to look at transportation, making sure our roads are adequate for the growth, and we need to protect our current businesses and the ag that we have in this county.
Thank you.
Noting.
In your view, what needs of the agricultural community should have the highest priority? And are there actions the council could or should take to meet this need? Candidate Kershner?
Well, I know our agricultural communities need water, and I know they get really worried when water is the topic of discussion because they cannot farm without water. I know that another area of concern or what makes them worried is when regulations are coming down the pike. Right now, there is a DOE regulation for CAFO farming, which affects some of our dairy farms in the county. And I visited a dairy farm just last week, and they told me that if they would have to implement this regulation, it would cost them $22 million. This is a small farm. It's milking 200 cows a day. $22 million is going to put them out of business. So we need to fix those kind of things.
Thank you. Candidate Sidhu.
Yes, I think the water is the main issue. The uncertainty for the ag community to not have water rights is a great peril, and we do need to solve that. But county is not really has any say in distributing that water. County can be a leader, putting all the stakeholders together and creating some opportunities for these kind of agreements. I think the second thing is the regulation. The regulation is like a double-edged sword. You know, regulation, like we keep saying, regulation is bad, bad, bad. If it was so bad, why would we have it? I mean, why would we drive on the right side of the road? Why we stop in the red light? They have a purpose. I think the purpose is the issue with that regulation purpose is when it goes too far. And that's the judgment county, our government at all level have to make when it is too much regulation. But saying stop the regulation is not the answer.
Thank you. If elected, What would be your first priority when making decisions about the budget and taxes? Why do you think that's the most important? Candidate Sidhu?
Yes. Well, I have been on the council not too long, but I've learned a lot. The first thing is that we are spending over 60% of our money on law and justice, the next 25% on our roads, and the balance 15% on all the things. And people try to save money from the 1%. They try to cut 10% of the 1% of the budget, because that's where it comes, my experience in the business. You got to look at, like we talked before about cutting or reducing. Everybody is getting more efficient. Look at the businesses just in 25 years, how they are doing their business. Why can't government learn from the business and be more efficient? And I think that is something that we can really do and prioritize. Let's reduce 5% reduction on 60% budget can revamp a lot of other things, programs we don't need to cut or reduce. So that's where our priority should go. We should be very tricky with the scalpel. Thank you.
Candidate Kershner.
Well, my experience working as your county council person for 4 years showed me that it is not just as simple as cutting or prioritizing. Our county budget is actually very complicated. We have when I was on the council, there were 67 plus funds. Each one of those funds must be spent in a certain way. And so while it may look like we've got a surplus of funds, you can't just go take road funds and spend them on homeless housing projects, for instance. So having an understanding of the budget process is an important aspect when selecting your county council person. But I think that another interesting fact that most people aren't aware of is that counties were set up specifically to ensure that the road infrastructure was put in place between towns. We've grown a lot more since then, but that's why some of our road budgets are as high as they are.
Thank you. Next question. How important is promoting biodiversity in our county and protecting the environment? Candidate Kershner?
Biodiversity is important. You know, it's funny because when you said that, I immediately thought of the Human Biome Project, because I've been researching that. Yes, we want to make sure that we aren't, making any sort of species extinct, of course, and biodiversity adds to the quality of the environment. And I feel like I'm just stumbling here, but our environment is important. And I have a record of supporting our environment. I voted to pass the reconveyance through, which protects 8,800 acres around Lake Whatcom, and many other projects. I believe I voted for about $15 million over the course of my 4 years on environmental projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Sidhu.
I think we are the perfect example of biodiversity. We are already very biodiverse county. I mean, we have like 90% in the forest land and federal-owned lands in our county. I think what we really need to do, the question, I can rephrase it, is protecting the biodiversity we already have. We have ocean, we have Mount Baker, we have lakes, we have ag, we have dairy, and all these things do create the biodiversity other people clamor for. We already have it. And I see that protecting it and making regulations so that we don't destroy the biodiversity we already have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. In the State of the County message, the executive said that county revenues are now stable, but he also had some concern about future revenues due to outside factors such as reductions in retail sales or state and federal grants. If necessary, what services or programs would you recommend cutting and why? Candidate Sidhu?
Yes. I don't think we need to cut anything, and it's not all doom and gloom as some people would like you to believe. The resources we have, people may be surprised that our recreation industry is worth $500 million. Like I gave you example of the blueberries. We can do value-added processing. There's a company here make bikes, $30,000 for a 2-pedal bike, no motor. I mean, we have so much opportunity. We can bring a Amazon back office here. We can bring Microsoft here. What a best place to live for people. What a best place, recreation place. I think we are not looking at our assets. We keep turning inward and keep being negative all the time. I think we can increase our tax base in many different ways. You give me 40 years, you can see the change.
Candidate Kershner.
Well, I think that we need to be paying attention to the future, and I think that we need to be looking at our economy, especially as we could be impacted by the recession in Canada. That being said, I believe that instead of looking straight at cuts, what we need to do as a community is look at bringing businesses here and making our community economic situation stronger. There are lots of different types of businesses that we could be much more friendly to. And as a council member, I would be advocating for our businesses, both small and large, to be coming to Whatcom County and adding to our tax base.
Thank you. Where would you place funding for social services in your budget priorities? And please be specific about mental health services. Candidate Kershner?
Well, I'm glad you asked that because I brought the chart that I made up of all of the funding that I approved while I served on the council. And social services total was over $22 million, almost $23 million. And for homelessness, over the 4 years I served, I approved $6.5 million. I think that the county has an important role to play in providing social service programs, monitoring social service programs, and making sure they're funded. I was an advocate and a champion on the council for those kind of programs, and that's because I've got 23 years working in the business. So I understand social service programs, I understand the direct service aspect as well as the administrative aspect.
Thank you. Candidate Sidhu?
Yes. You know, if we really look at it, governments are the biggest non-profit organizations. You know, the government's purpose is to enhance the quality of life. And quality of life enhancement is only good if every citizen gets touched with that enhancement. That's the whole basic purpose of our government. That's how we should allocate our budget. That should be always on our mind, how every citizen gets that opportunity, maybe at a house, maybe for a job, maybe for better transportation. That's what the governments are for. And I have served on 12 different boards, and I have been a kind of big deal about nonprofits and why they need. You know, the nonprofits are our partners. Why did they start? Why did the food bank start? Because county doesn't want to be in the business of distributing food to people. They say, look, we can have, sorry. I have a lot of ideas.
Hey, our next question. Affordable housing for seniors and disabled persons has mostly disappeared from Whatcom County. What will you do on County Council to address this pressing need? Candidate Sidhu?
Can you please state that again? Sorry.
Disappearing affordable housing for seniors
okay.
and disabled persons, what would you do?
I think here is another opportunity. We cannot really look at affordable housing, let the government provide it. I think we need a public-private enterprise cooperation. There are certain things in place in our state government, in our local place, and nonprofit. Now, that's where the function comes in. It's not the government to build houses, but we can facilitate. How the county can facilitate? By permitting fees, by making it easier for the land acquisition or or provision of that land within the city or in the counties. I mean, cities is the city's jurisdiction, I totally understand that. But that's what we need to facilitate, to learn what the needs are and plan for that ahead of time. It's a cooperative process.
Thank you. Candidate Kershner.
Well, a couple of things that we can do that will help make housing affordable for everybody is we can look at our land supply. It's a supply and demand issue. When we have lack of supply and we have a big demand, the housing prices are unaffordable. We also can look at the regulations that we have in place. In the city of Bellingham, for instance, it costs $30,000 just to get your permit to build a single-family home. For this, people with developmental disabilities or disabilities and our seniors who are living on fixed incomes, there are programs like Section 8 that we can be more proactive in making sure that we're reaching out and getting those benefits here into our county for them. And we can also encourage developers to build housing that is specifically for those populations.
Our next question. During charter review, questions were raised about how the council awards contracts to nonprofit organizations for services that would otherwise be provided by county employees. Do you share that concern? Why or why not? Candidate Kershner?
No, I don't share that concern. Nonprofits are very valuable and important to our community. The county partners with and contracts with many different nonprofits to provide services that it just doesn't make sense for the county to provide. When it does make sense for the county to provide the services, I'm supportive of our county staff doing the work. But things like providing employment opportunities for people with developmental disabilities, we don't want to hire county staff to do that, so we hire nonprofit agencies. The food bank is another example. We don't want to run a food bank, so we partner with the food bank. So I'm supportive of our nonprofits.
I will just expand on my previous answer. The governments are the largest nonprofit organizations. I think that this partnership, public-private partnership, is a very core of any society to touch every people in our communities. There are certain services that can be better provided by people who are more closer to that, like mental health services. If you have people or committee or a task force who are people who have that ability and knowledge or some dear one into that, they will have the better solutions than a bureaucrat sitting in an office and having a budget to spend. And that's where the nonprofits are the most efficient, that they know how to spend that money, where to spend that money. And I fully agree that county, it's your money. It's not county's money. We are just allocating it. So, and people pay taxes to help all the citizens of the county, not just the county executive or employees. Sorry, I passed my time.
Thank you. How do you think implementation of the Growth Management Act has affected Whatcom County? Please give the reason for your opinion. And Candidate Sidhu, I'll ask you first, please.
Yes. Well, let's learn from our past. You can't fight things. You bang your head against a wall, most likely your head's going to get hurt. So I think that we have learned that lesson from previous years, previous councils. Instead of looking in details and trying to solve the problem, kept fighting it. Okay, we learned that. Now what we are doing, we have this next phase of redoing it. You know, I am a pragmatic person. I looked at all the cities growing contiguously. Like Ferndale and Linden are all surrounded by premier ag land. And they want to expand. They say, well, what else? We can take the ag land. I think we should start thinking outside the box. Maybe we should find areas which are more conducive for residential development and let it be. Like a city can be Ferndale and can be 2 miles apart. There is no rule for that. It has to be contiguous. We can provide the services, collect the taxes, make it better for the whole community.
And Candidate Kershner.
Well, I think that the Growth and Management Act is a tool to be used by our county to plan for the future. And it consists of 7 chapters, I believe. And they each focus on a different element that we're supposed to be planning for. And oftentimes what happens is the one chapter on land use gets the most attention in this county. So I worked on the county council for a good solid 4 years, working hard to get us into compliance with the Growth Management Act. When I was elected in 2009, we were out of compliance with it. When I left in 2014, we were almost there, and then a few months after I left, we became compliant with the Growth Management Act. I would like to see us focus on Chapter 7, which is employment opportunities in Whatcom County. I think that that has been neglected, and I think that we could really benefit by opening up that chapter and seeing exactly what we have in there and where we can go from here. Thank you.
2 years of low rainfall have increased concern about our water supply. What are your ideas for ensuring a safe and ample water supply for all needs? Candidate Kershner?
Well, first of all, I think that it's in everybody's best interest to conserve water where they can. It makes no sense for any of us to waste water, and I think we are a community of conservers. When I was driving around this summer, most of the lawns that I saw were, that beautiful yellow straw color, and I didn't see people washing their cars in their driveways, and I think that we can be commended for being that kind of a community. We need to be paying attention to our weather patterns. I know that I hear on the news we're in a El Nino pattern, which brings a lot of rain but not a lot of snow, which is not good. And I'll just stop there. The 15-second thing is really throwing me off. Sorry.
Candidate Sidhu.
I think water means different things for different purposes. Like for city dwellers, it is 24/7, 365 days a year. You turn the tap on, you have a water. That's what and they don't use very much, but that's what is for them is water. When you turn the tap, it's water. But if you look at farmers, they need water in certain time of the year. Depending on dairies may need different times and more continuous than the berry farmers. If you look at salmon, it's a different timing when they need that flows to survive over salmon. So what we really need to do is that we need everybody to bring it together. That's what county's role is put the stakeholders into a process of discussing. I don't think that there's one stakeholder is saying we don't need berries or cows, and the other stakeholder saying we don't need salmon. I think we all realize that we need all of this. Drinking water, of course, we all need that. Okay.
This will be our last question before closing statements. What should be the council's relationship with the tribes and issues important to them, especially fishing rights? Candidate Sidhu?
Yes. I think that is something very, very fundamental. I want to address this thing in relation to Whatcom County. Whatcom County, we have a unique place here. The tribes are downstream and our mountains are upstream, and the situation is that there are certain treaty rights for them to have their fishing rights. Okay, let me stop there. But the thing is what we really need to do is protect that, but protect that doesn't mean that we don't need the rest of the things. I think if we can find a local solution, we don't have a water deficit. We have a trust deficit. Once everybody starts trusting each other, we can have a local solution. What we need here is not good for Skagit County or Yakima. Whatcom County is unique. We need a unique Whatcom County solution.
Thank you. And Candidate Kershner.
Okay, well, I think that the relationship should be one of cooperation. We need to honor and respect the treaty and the fishing rights that the tribes have. I met with Chairman Ballou, who's the Lummi Indian Business Council Chair. And I found him to be very open to working with our local governments on issues that affect both the tribe and Whatcom County. And he was very interested in finding win-win solutions. And so I think that's an open door to a cooperative relationship, and I'm glad of it.
Thank you. Now we'll move to the closing statements. Candidate Kershner, you have 1 minute.
All right. Every day my campaign is growing stronger and gaining momentum. I'm endorsed by our small city mayors because they recognize we need a balance on the Whatcom County Council. I'm endorsed by unions like the pipe fitters, the plumbers, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers because they know I'll make family wage jobs a top priority. The realtors have endorsed me because they know I will support affordable housing choices for everyone that chooses to live here. The Washington State Farm Bureau and the Whatcom County Cattlemen's Association have endorsed me because they know I'll be the only real voice for farmers on the county council. And the Whatcom Deputy Sheriff's Guild has endorsed me because they believe that I know ensuring the safety of our local community should be the very top priority of every elected official. I'm Kathy Kershner. I ask for your vote, and in return, I promise to listen to you and govern in a way that reflects the shared values of this community we call home. It's about time you had a voice on the county council. For more information, please visit my website at votekershner.com.
And Candidate Sidhu.
Well, I immigrated 40 years ago with no money but 3 degrees. I built my career, raised my family on the strength of my education. I am the candidate who actually created jobs, who worked in education, understand berry farming, volunteered for the community, and built alliances to get things done. I'm an independent thinker, a visionary with bold ideas to put our county on the right path for future. I have been endorsed by Bellingham firefighters, Lummi Business Council, Union, Sierra Club, Planned Parenthood, and whole lot of other people. The council seat is not an entitlement, but it is a privilege to be chosen by the voters as the most qualified person for the job. With my experience and proven track record, I believe I am the most qualified candidate. I'll be honored to receive your vote. God bless you, and God bless America.
Please join me in thanking Kathy Kershner and Satpal Sidhu for being here tonight and for running for office.
This pencil is broken, so you get.
The final debate for
Want me to leave
tonight
this
we'll
up here?
hear is between the candidates Joy Gilfilen and Jack Louws, who are competing for Whatcom County Executive. Okay, we need to move right along. If I could call you back to order, please. The county council exec is nominated and elected by all the voters of the county with a term of 4 years. The following is an abbreviated list of the responsibilities. The executive supervises county administrative offices and executive departments, executes and enforces all ordinances and state statutes within the county, provides an annual statement of all governmental affairs, prepares and presents the county council budgets for the fiscal year, prepares and presents comprehensive plans, can veto any ordinance adopted by the county council except as otherwise provided in the charter, assigns duties to administrative offices and executive departments, and signs on behalf of the county all claims, deeds, contracts, and other instruments. The county council executive position is compensated $147,024 per year. Same ground rules as we had during our first. You will start with your 1.5-minute open statements. Remember, that should be why are you running for county council and what makes you the better candidate. Since candidate Gilfilen won the toss and chose to close last, we'll start with candidate Louws.
Well, thank you so much for allowing us to be here tonight, for the League of Women Voters, for putting the forum on, for the Bellingham Herald, and of course for the City of Bellingham for allowing us to use their chambers. My wife Cindy and I have been lifelong residents of Whatcom County. We've had the opportunity to raise 3 children. We've foster parented 18 throughout the years, and now we have the just the great honor of having some grandkids. So we really do have a vested interest in Whatcom County because it's our home and we love it. My career outside of government has been the owner of Louws Trust for 30 years. My father started that in 1952. I ran it for a number of years, and for the last 4 years our son is running that. We're scattered throughout the region, and we're providing over 60 jobs, many of which are providing for living wages. My political career has involved 4 years as the Linden City Councilman, 8 years as the Linden Mayor, and now 4 years as your county executive. I feel that I have a skill set that serves Whatcom County well with my private sector experience and the growing up that I've had in my public service serving in the city of Linden. There's work yet to be done, and I'd like to be your county executive for the next 4 years to complete that. Thank you so much.
Candidate Gilfilen.
Thank you also. It's an honor to be here to work on behalf of democracy and American taxpayers. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for serving our country so well. I'm here to stand up for Whatcom County taxpayers, the little guy. Not corporations, not big government, but small business people, small taxpayers, and the inmates and the people who work in the Whatcom County Jail, all of us. I believe that we need to relook at how we do government business. We need to relook at how we are going to build a 21st century economy based upon new business models, not based upon old 20th century punitive business models. I absolutely stand against the jail. I stand against the jail because I spent 5 years studying the economic destruction of the middle class and of small business people and of our youth. My background for the last 20, 25 years has been in coaching free enterprise, small business, home business people around this nation. And one of the most valuable things you can do is inspire people to do the right thing, not punish them with taxes and tax bondage. And I believe if we do the sales tax, we will actually be, in fact, cutting our legs off, our nose off to spite our face.
Candidate Louws, you have 1 minute to rebut or add.
Well, I'd like to add to my opening statement by saying that the county executive has many responsibilities in terms of developing the budget and the work plan, but also has a responsibility to the citizens to carry out the capital plans that are approved by the legislative branch. In the last 4 years, I'm pleased to be able to work with our staff, with the county council, and our community to put forth our first mental health court in the community, put the first Superior Court judge in chambers, put an emergency operations center out at the airport in coordination and collaboration with the City of Bellingham and the Port of Bellingham. The Birch Bay berm, finalizing the reconveyance, records management system in the Sheriff's Office, computer replacements, new websites, assessor treasurer systems. All of these programs and more are to maintain the infrastructure in Whatcom County and to enhance the productivity of our employees. I think that I have the skill set to do that well, and I'm looking forward to completing things in the next 4 years.
And candidate Gilfilen.
Government management is bureaucracy. I think that it's absolutely important that we do all of the things that Executive Louws speaks to. I also am aware that he said before the City Council that he lost track of the responsibility to look for alternative economic models rather than just pass a sales tax. I think that is incredibly short-sighted, given the fact that our coalition that I've been president of has spent the last 5 years trying to get the attention of government, of politicians, of our executive branch, of our sheriff, to talk specifically about economic development for the small business people and for the inmates of that jail, so that we can take people out of the jail codependency system. It costs us $25,000 to $50,000 a year to incarcerate people, and once they go into the system, they're gone for life, oftentimes 20, 40, 60 years. We need something better. We need economic development for the little guy.
We'll move to our questions. Apart from its natural beauty, what are 3 things you value the most about living in Whatcom County? Candidate Louws.
Well, the people. I value the diversity that we have throughout Whatcom County, and I look at it as that we have 7 cities. They're all like brothers and sisters, but they're all unique. So if you go to Sumas, whether it be Blaine, Linden, or Bellingham, is that we just have a uniqueness of character, like a brother and a sister, but we're all working together for our common good. And as county executive, it's nice to be able to see all those things. My third reason that I think that Whatcom County is just a great place to be has to do, obviously, with the natural beauty, which I'm not supposed to mention. But without that, the economic development in Whatcom County as it relates to recreation wouldn't happen. And those things are all good for us.
Thank you. Candidate Gilfilen.
Freedom of thought, freedom of diversity, the innovation of the total variety of people that live here. And I believe that that comes because we have a biodiverse ecosystem. It rains all the time here. That rain actually breaks up the ions and the energetic potential of this area. And if you drive all the way across this nation and you come over the mountains and you come into Whatcom County, I love it. I can breathe, I smell good, not always. I can smell fresh. The world is fresh here, and that freshness is why we can lead this nation in an economic revitalization strategy that I believe we are on the cusp of in Whatcom County right now.
Among all the responsibilities outlined in the county charter for the executive, what do you consider the most challenging? And please explain your choice. Candidate Gilfilen?
I think the most challenging is having to balance the needs of the many with the needs of the few. And when you read the county charter, when you look at it, what you recognize is that we've actually got a really huge disparity between the economic power that goes behind the executive branch and what goes to the county council. The county council is our policymaking body. Our executive branch is the executive body that has to give information to the county. I think that being able to balance that information flow, being able to keep our own egos in check so that we can, in fact, serve the long-term best interest of this county is one of the biggest challenges we have. And I think that one of the problems that we had with charter review is that we forget that the county lies underneath all of our cities, including our unincorporated areas. We are not. We are a united group, and we need to be working together as a unit.
Thank you. Candidate Louws?
The biggest challenge as executive, and I think as the county, working with the county council, relates to the budget process, because government works related to the work plan that you put forward. The visioning for our county is embedded into the financial document that is approved by Whatcom County on a biennial basis. So in working with the County Council over the last 2 years, putting that sustainable budget together, incorporating the capital projects that we deem necessary is really a big undertaking, and it's where the interaction with the council and the community takes place. Furthermore, as the county executive, I think the most important thing that I can do is hire the right people. There's 820 of us. It can't be done alone, and having the right team around you is just ultimately very important.
You and your opponent have different views on the ballot proposal for a 0.2 sales tax increase to fund a new jail. What do you believe are the best arguments for your position? And Candidate Louws, we'll start with you.
Well, I believe the 0.2% sales tax is the most appropriate way to pay for this, and really the only way to pay for the new jail, because we not only have to build it and spend the capital money to make that happen, as we need to operate it. Counties throughout the state have built facilities but haven't had the money to open the doors. And I'm committed to the citizens of Whatcom County to put a proposal together that works both to build it and to operate it. The sales tax allows us to do that under state law, where property tax only allows us to use it for capital, and we cannot use the money for running the jail. So I believe the sales tax is the right and only way for us to go, and that's why the small city mayors, also working with the city of Bellingham and the county council, agreed with me on that, and that's what the voters have before them in November to make a decision on.
Candidate Gilfilen.
I'm completely opposed to the sales tax on any basis. I think that we have overfunded the criminal justice system, the law enforcement system. I think it's a systemic problem. We have prison reform issues happening on the federal level. I think we need to have jail reform issues happening on the local level. Yes, we have an inhumane jail, but that inhumanity is not caused because we haven't passed a tax. That inhumanity is caused because we have not managed the jail properly. It's only 30 years old. The sheriff has $18.5 million sitting in an extra fund to build a sheriff's office. Why are we dealing with a crisis by spending months arguing over a sales tax when we should have been spending months arguing over how in the heck to get people out of the inhumane conditions that they're living in right now? We are torturing people here in Whatcom County, and it's not okay. Plan B should have been Plan A. Plan B is this one right here. We just wrote this plan and we've delivered it.
The mayor and council of Bellingham agree that a new jail is needed, but they have challenged details about how jail tax revenue would be divided between the county and its cities and how it would be used. Negotiations will continue. In your view, why was this conflict not resolved before the issue was placed on the ballot? And Candidate Gilfilen, I'll call on you first.
I would say it was not resolved because specifically of the leadership method and manner of behavior of Executive Louws. He has a method of providing a solution, and when he provided his solution, he gave the council no alternative. The jail planning system, the sheriff, the entire EIS process only delivered one solution. Plan B, which is required in the EIS system, asks for a no jail alternative. What are you going to do if it doesn't happen? If you read the final environmental impact statement, there was no Plan B. What's the matter with that? What's the matter with that is we have people inside the jail being tortured right now and treated inhumanely because we don't have a business planning system. We should have had that all negotiated before we ever went to you taxpayers and asked you for a sales tax. It's inappropriate to sell a financing plan before you have a business plan completed.
Candidate Louws.
I engaged the administration of the city of Bellingham on September 20th of last year on this issue and worked with them through the latter part of 2014. Engaged the small cities at the beginning of 2015 and gave all of the cities a proposal to respond to in April. All of the small cities in our community responded to that proposal within about 6 weeks, and the Bellingham took their first action related to it in the first part of July, when we've had really hard and fast deadlines to bring this thing to the voters. I do believe that we have an opportunity to make this work yet in the next couple of months, and I'm continuing to work with the city of Bellingham. But we do need to get this done this year because we have other major issues that are before us in future years regarding emergency medical services, the replacement of the exterior of the courthouse, and the time is now to get this done.
If elected, what would be your priorities in the budget you recommend to the County Council? What would be your most important consideration? Candidate Louws.
Well, I found that putting together a sustainable budget is the most important thing that we can do, and one of the, I think, primary missions that I have as executive is to make sure that the employees we have have the tools to be able to do their jobs. As I've mentioned, we have 800 employees, so I've dedicated over the last 4 years about $2 million a year to information technology projects. So internally to county government is I'm using my skill set to my abilities to be able to increase those efficiencies. As it relates to outside of the community projects, infrastructure is very important to me. Our road systems are vitally important for our economic development, and the efforts that we're also doing in terms of water resources and the water plan that we have putting forth is going to be ultimately very important for the future of our citizens.
Candidate Gilfilen?
Number one is to implement restorative justice and restorative economic principles in the first place. Stop hemorrhaging taxpayer dollars to criminal justice systems that are locking up large numbers of misdemeanants, people who are nonviolent. We're spending $80 to $100 a day keeping people locked up who are not legally, I mean, they are considered legally innocent. So saving money is as important as making money and budgeting money. Secondly, building systems that can, in fact, be efficient so that we don't have redundancy of permits and things that drive costs up for the business world. So looking at efficiency. And number three, moving money into the other departments. Parks and Rec needs money badly. They're hurting. Planning needs money badly. They're hurting. Sucking up 2/3 of our budget in law and justice is inappropriate, and it's out of balance budgeting.
Where would you place funding for social services in your budget priorities? And please be specific about housing for low-income families and the homeless. Candidate Gilfilen?
I would put a tremendous amount of money into funding nonprofits and helping the homeless and helping the poor and indigent. We have a deep poverty-driven economy right now. We now have generational poverty. Most people, I mean, the income breach between the high end and the low end is very, very big. A lot of middle-class people are now living on other people's couches. People don't want to talk about it because it's indecent to talk about that in a civilized, high-class society. But the fact is, what we need to be doing is building the homeless centers. Western produced 5 homeless communities. They're brilliant, absolutely brilliant. They would save us so much money in government expenditures if we simply took them out of jail and put them into alternative housing, tiny homes, all kinds of things. Absolutely. Mental health, we need mental health programs. We are not adequately funded, and the token programs we have are simply inadequate.
Candidate Louws?
Well, I'm pleased to say that over the last 4 years, we've increased our effectiveness as it relates to homeless housing and the services that we're providing in Whatcom County. Currently, we're spending about $2.7 million a year helping the people in our community that are in need. The League of Women Voters, of course, has put their pamphlet out and for the women's economic security, and it takes housing, food, transportation, jobs, and health care. And if any of those particular components of a person's life go awry, they have an opportunity to slide backwards in the society. So Whatcom County is doing a lot. The 2.7 for homeless housing, 350-some thousand for veteran services, the mental health court and the other courts that we have. Part of those programs is to get people to re-enter into society. So we're doing good things, folks, and I'm planning to continue those programs.
Please give your opinion on funding for bicycle paths and trails in Whatcom County. Candidate Louws.
Well, thank you for that one. We do have a bicycle pedestrian committee. They work with our Public Works Department. As we develop all road improvement projects in Whatcom County there is a multimodal component that we take a look at. And where appropriate, we have the ability to widen the shoulders out and make bike paths on it. We don't have as much opportunity with our 930 miles of road as the cities do, just because of the density and the amount of roads that we have. But if you take the Hannigan now from Bellingham to Linden, you look at the Mount Baker Loop Trail that we're trying to accomplish from Bellingham to Ferndale, the components of that and the planning for those are all inclusive of the thoughts related to bicycle and pedestrian activity, and I think that it's good for us to continue those programs.
Candidate Gilfilen.
I agree with Mr. Louws. I think that dealing with our recreational use on people who are trying to not drive so many cars and instead be healthy and drive bicycles are important. I think that it's proportional, and I think we need to look at funding for that relative to other critical areas, funding for other recreational funding, for everything. I think we have to look at it proportionally.
In the 2015 State of the County message, the county exec described county revenues as stable, but expressed some concern about future revenues due to outside factors such as reductions in retail sales or state and federal grants. If necessary, what services or programs would you recommend cutting and why? Candidate Gilfilen?
The codependence on the criminal justice system. I think that one of the biggest things we have to look at is the fact that economically, we are dealing with a Canadian border and a Canadian economy that could in fact crash and could deeply threaten the income coming into this county. I think we have to look at the fact that small businesses and little tiny people cannot pay their bills right now. I think we have to be aware of the fact that prison reform is going to change everything. I think we have to build a self-reliant business model on every single level. I think we need ingenious thinking, and I think we need innovation, and I'm willing to lead the charge on that.
And Candidate Louws?
Well, I would say that Whatcom County government is not as dependent on Canadian sales tax as the cities are. Growth management has put all of the large retail centers within the urban areas, and consequently our sales tax does not fluctuate as much as the cities do. And even with the downturn in the Canadian traffic, Whatcom County sales tax is up. But as it relates to the budget, you need to determine whether or not it's going to be a permanent decline or whether it is a momentary point in time where you're going to have a reduction in services. If it's a momentary point in time, you look at your reserves and you look at your capital spending and you adjust those so that you can slide through the period of time that you have for that. Whatcom County did an excellent job of that in 2008 through the recession. So if it's a permanent cut, then you need to take a look at the whole organization and balance your priorities out with the engagement of the council, because they make those legislative decisions. Oh, I got the bell.
2 years of low rainfall have increased concern about our water supply. If elected, what measures would you recommend to council to ensure a safe and ample water supply for all needs? Candidate Louws?
Well, water is of major concern, and on the short term, and if it develops into the long term as it relates to the amount of snowfall and snowpack that we have in the mountains, is we're going to have to continue to do the absolute best job that we can conserving water. What we are doing right now related to water is that Whatcom County is spearheading the effort related to the Comprehensive Water System Plan, which is taking all of our municipal users throughout Whatcom County. We're consolidating the information. We're actually finding out how much we're using. That's a major step that we're going to need to have identified as we move forward, working with the Lummi Nation, the Nooksack tribe, the farmers, and all of the constituents within Whatcom County who are water users to find that long-term solution. So we're actively pursuing solutions and putting the data together that's going to be necessary to find those solutions.
And Candidate Gilfilen.
One of my deepest concerns is the fact that America itself is dealing with weather changes. Whether we like it or not, other agricultural areas are heavily impacted by lack of water. If we have catastrophic failure in any of our other states and we lose food supply chain food supplies, and we mess with our food supply chain. I was talking to the head of the Department of Agriculture in the state of California a couple of years ago. She said that one of the biggest problems she had in managing agriculture and business in the state of California was that the legislators didn't understand food supply chain dynamics. And I said, that's not a good idea. She said, we're also out of balance. We are now codependent on other countries for our food supply. She said, and worse than that, the food producers don't even understand food supply chain dynamics. I think we have to have a real serious conversation in Whatcom County about who gets the water, how we get it, how do we preserve it, so that we have food to feed our children.
Thank you. Are there changes in the organization, systems, or procedures of county government you believe would result in greater efficiency, reduce cost, or improve services? And please give some specific examples. Candidate Gilfilen?
I would institute a 360-degree accounting type system or co-measurement system. I think that, number one, every single person who works in county government, and that I mean from the county executive all the way down to the janitors, needs to be co-measured from a friendly, cooperative method. There are many innovative methods of doing it, and it's not all economic, and it's not all measured on whether or not you do the rules right. It should be measured on who is in fact bringing forward good ideas, who is saving the county taxpayers money, who is getting the taxpayers a better return on investment, not just who's balancing the budget and looking good on the surface. I think that, number one, we must establish a new measurement system. That's one of the first. And I think the other one is we need a taxpayers accountability method so that when taxpayers have problems, they can bring it to the government and somebody in fact listens so that solutions can be developed.
Candidate Louws.
Yeah, thank you for that. One is Whatcom County is a sub-agency of the state of Washington, and we're working on behalf and in coordination with the state. One thing that I would like to see at the state level is a reduction in the redundancy of documentation and reviews that we need to do on the processes that we engage in within our government. That may be a big ask, but the question was asked, and I would love to be able to free our government up to be a bit more self-reliant and develop more of a trust relationship with the state. Secondly, is the access to information for our citizens. We've been pushing a lot of effort into our IT department so that you can access information without working with our staff. It's not that we don't like to work with you, it just takes time and costs money. And then clear code so that on the enforcement side of things is we can make things work better.
On the November ballot, there's a proposed council charter amendment to adopt term limits for county council members and the county executive, a total of 12 years in office. Do you support this proposal, and what are your reasons for your opinion? Candidate Louws?
I personally don't have a lot of problem with it. I've always considered my public service to be part of my life and not all of my life, so it's not a career choice for me to be county executive for the next 30 years. One, I'd be very old at that particular time. So I don't have a challenge with it, but you have to realize is that if you want an executive who's 35 years old to upend his life and his career for a political office, at 35 years, he's going to be 47 when he's going to be kicked out of office, and you might restrict some very, very good candidates from wanting to get involved at that particular age of their life, because this is a full-time job, and it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of time to make that happen. But for somebody to put their name forward and being elected at particular times in their life may be challenging for them, and I would just ask that the citizens consider that part of it as they're making their decision.
Candidate Gilfilen.
I absolutely believe in term limits. I think that if you can't get into a government situation, run a company, rebuild it, do whatever you need to set it on visionary tracks and bring people up behind you who can take care of the business, I think we have problems. I think that if someone is that good at 35 and they spend 12 years, gee, maybe we ought to have them running for governor or running for state or federal government. If they're that good, let's let them go. Let's not just let them sit down and be cushy in a nice $150,000 a year job. I think that it's terrific. I think it's great. But I think we should let people move on. I think that there's a heck of a lot of power that is accumulated in any position like this. And I think disrupting it, I'm a farmer. It's always good to stir up the soil and allow new blood to come in and new ideas to move. Our world is moving really fast. Old systems and old methods are not going to work in the coming years. New people need to be adaptable to have 12 to 24 careers in their lifetime right now. When we grew up, most of us older folks, we only had 2.
How will you improve the historically contentious relationship between the county and the Bellingham city government? Candidate Gilfilen.
It would be a joy to solve the contentious relationships between the county and the city. And the reason, I believe, is that we need to stop thinking that the city is in opposition to. The city is part of the county. And there are 6 other cities in this community that are part of the county. And when I went around talking to the unincorporated people and these people in other cities, it was fascinating for me to find out that everybody who lives in the unincorporated area only has a county executive, county officials to vote for, and everyone living in every single other city has a mayor and councils, plus the county council and the county executive. So in fact, all the unincorporated areas have half the representation. Well, what if we had a council of all people every single year and brought everyone together in a 1 or 2 day conference for economic development and systemic change? We can do it.
Candidate Louws.
Well, I think that I have been involved in bringing a collaborative leadership style between the city of Bellingham and Whatcom County in the past 4 years. I'm really pleased and proud and honored that the Dispute Resolution Center awarded Mayor Kelly Linville and I the leadership award for collaborative leadership. We have done that because we respect each other's opinions. That doesn't mean that we're going to agree on every issue, and I think that the jail is probably a prime example of that at this particular time. But I'm committed to work with Mayor Kelly, working with the Bellingham City Council, and all of the councils throughout our community, because we are brothers and sisters, and we don't have a choice of who our relatives are, and we need to work together. I bring that leadership style to the table, and I'm planning on doing everything that I can over the next 4 years to maintain that good relationship.
Thank you. And this will be our last question before we go to closing statements. The county and the city of Bellingham have integrated emergency medical services, but additional funding is needed to fully support the system. What do you believe is the best way to provide such revenue? And please give a reason for your choice. Candidate Louws?
We have been working collaboratively with the cities in the last 2 years related to emergency medical services. I am pleased that the City of Bellingham, Fire District 7, and Whatcom County have put together this collaborative effort to hold it together. We have a funding problem related to emergency medical services because the federal government has reduced our income or our reimbursement for that program by about $2 million a year. 6 years ago, it was $4 million a year. We're getting less than $2 million right now. Working with the mayors, we've put together a team, and I believe that we're going to be proposing a very small property tax measure for the voters next year to consider keeping that very important program up and operating. It's unfortunate that we have to do that, but it's becoming apparent that while parts of the Affordable Care Act are doing us very well, that particular component of it is costing Whatcom County government a lot of money.
And Candidate Gilfilen.
That's a perfect example of why we should not pass the sales tax. In my opinion, we need to be planning for emergency services, emergency care, crisis care. We need to be using our sales tax to plan for the high probability that emergency preparedness may be our #1 problem coming up in the next few years as climate change affects our water, as we're anticipating earthquakes, as we have experienced toxic problems from the tsunami. All of these things are problems in the future. We cannot afford to use our sales tax for locking up more people. We need to go back to the drawing board, rethink about how we do this, and stop thinking that taxpayers have an unlimited amount of money. Taxpayers have to do the original money. As Satpal talked about, we're a nonprofit organization as a government. Think about that, folks. If we don't have enough taxpayers making enough money, there's no taxes to run government.
Candidates, you now have the opportunity to make a 1-minute closing statement. Candidate Louws, we'll start with you.
Well, thank you again so much for having us here tonight. I've received the endorsement of all of the city mayors, the Lummi Nation, the Farm Bureau, and the realtors. If you look at the Lummi Nation and the Farm Bureau, they both have big water interests. I believe I'm the right person to bring those opposing, or those, I shouldn't say opposing, but those groups to the table. Been awarded the Peace Builder Award by the Dispute Resolution Center. I do want to solve the jail issue, our comp plan issues, bringing an ambulance to your door as it relates to emergency medical services, the records management system, and I want to work on behalf of the citizens of Whatcom County as the administrative head, and to use the skill set that I've learned over the years, and hopefully I'm doing that to your satisfaction. So I do ask for your vote on November 3. Please vote Jack Louws for County Executive.
And candidate Gilfilen.
I'm an non-political, unpolitician who does not have a lot of independent or group endorsements. I didn't go after them. I didn't go after them a lot because what I found when I started to is that many were afraid to endorse someone who stood so radically opposed to our current system of government and the current system and method of doing business in Whatcom County. So I realized that it would be smarter to work independently, as I have done my entire life. I am a maverick. I am a small business developer. That's what I do. I have transformed over 40 different kinds of projects. I have run my own $3.5 million sales organization, and I have coached companies to transform their own companies, their own businesses. I've won all kinds of awards. I believe that I have what it takes to lead a visionary renovation of this county to lead us into a 21st century. Voting for Joy.com.
Please join me in thanking Joy Gilfilen and Frank and Jack Louws for being here tonight and for running for office. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Bellingham and Whatcom County, I'd like to extend a big thank you to the City of Bellingham, our co-sponsor, and our media partner, the Bellingham Herald. Repeats of this and all our forums can be viewed on BTV 10, which is Comcast Channel 10. They may also be watched on demand via the City of Bellingham's YouTube channel. Simply go to youtube.com and then search City of Bellingham. I remind you that the forums are property of the League of Women Voters of Bellingham and Whatcom County and the City of Bellingham, and may not be used in any manner without specific written permission from both partners. Our last forum will be held here in the Bellingham City Council chambers. It will cover the Charter Amendment propositions and will be presented on Saturday, October 10 from 10 a.m. till noon. We hope you'll join us. Thank you to Tanya Baumgart, our Voter Service Chair, and to the Forum Committee for all of their hard work. And thank you for being such an attentive audience and for asking such good questions. Your vote counts, so remember to cast it by November 3rd and encourage your family, friends, and neighbors to vote also. Thank you and good night.